Persuasive speech, speech online, Ashley May. Young drivers. How young is too young? Imagine yourself driving on the road. It's a beautiful summer's day. It's your 16th birthday, which makes it even more awesome. And your best friend is sitting next to you, also 16. You're supposed to have an adult driver with you, but nobody listens to those rules anyway. Everything is going great. You feel so free and independent until your best friend screams, "No, stop!" You turn and say, "What?" But when you turn back, it's too late. The car that was coming at you has already slammed into the front of your car. You are now a fatality. Your best friend is now a fatality. You are both now statistics. The leading cause of death in young people ages 16 to 19 is car crashes, even more than cancer, suicide, and poisoning, according to the teen driver source. From a study done in 2008 of teen drivers and their fatalities, there is found that from drivers, their passengers, occupants of other vehicles, and non-occupants, the deaths totaled 6,428. And half of those are the teen drivers, and a quarter of them are the passengers. Now, this may not seem like it's a huge number of deaths, but when you think of how it could be prevented, it really is a huge number. In my speech, I'm going to be talking about the case for 3 options involving teen drivers. In order for them to drive more safely, I'm going to make the case of why the driving age should be raised to 18, or that 16 and 17-year-olds should be allowed to drive, but withheld certain privileges of driving until they're 18. And also, I'll be talking about the solution of making the requirements for receiving a license or a permit different. Now, I'm going to start first with the brain. The brain is huge when you're driving, and I could not list all the parts that are used when you're driving because it involves sending messages to your legs, your arms, your eyes, everything. And so a couple that are just to kind of show you the overarching use of the brain are called the parietal lobe and the frontal lobe. And the frontal lobe controls memory, and the parietal lobe controls all kinds of things from the senses. Now, the next 4 parts of the brain I'm going to talk about are really important, especially when you're talking about the teen's brain. Now, the cerebellum is used when driving, and this controls voluntary movement and coordination, which is really important when you're driving. But this part of a teen's brain is not fully developed until they are about 25 years old. Another part of the brain that's really important in driving is called the prefrontal cortex, which controls judgment, reasoning, and impulses. This is also not fully developed in a teen until they're about 25 years old. The parts of the brain that are dominant, however, are the amygdala and the nucleus accumbens. The amygdala controls emotions, and the nucleus accumbens controls motivation. So really, you can see that teens really need to use judgment and coordination when they're driving, but these parts of their brain aren't developed until much later. But I'm not saying that teens are stupid. In the National Institute of Mental Health, they talk about the difference between adult brains and adolescent brains. And they say, in terms of sheer intellectual power, the brain of an adolescent is a match for an adult's. The capacity of a person to learn will never be greater than during adolescence. At the same time, behavioral tests, sometimes combined with functional brain imaging, suggest in how adolescents and adults carry out mental tasks. Adolescents and adults seem to engage different parts of the brain to different extents during tests requiring calculation and impulse control or a reaction to emotional content. And this, again, proves my point that teens are different than adults because they're more controlled by their emotions and impulses. Not that they're not intelligent, but they are more controlled by their emotions. The next point that I'm going to talk about is hormones. Now this affects driving because hormones are raging when you are a teenager, and they affect a lot more than just your sexual development. They also affect how you respond to stress, which is really important when you're driving because there's a lot of different stressors that are going on, and it also affects your social behavior. So you could be driving recklessly, either just because you want to show independence, to impress a girl or a guy, or impress your friends. But that's not safe driving. So that shows that teens still need to develop a little bit more, and they might drive a little more recklessly because of their hormones and the development of their brains. There can be 3 solutions to this issue, which I alluded to before. The first is we could raise the driving age for teens to age 18 when their brain is not fully developed, but it's more developed than it is at age 15, 16, 17. So that could help the issue. Another solution to this problem could be making new requirements for new drivers, such as making different classes and really getting teens comfortable with driving with an instructor on a repeated basis so they get really confident, but not too confident. Another solution to this problem could be not necessarily raising the age for getting a permit or a license to 18, but allowing them to get the permit or license, but holding back certain driving privileges until they're 18, which is sort of what New York State does with junior and senior licenses, but not all states have instituted this. So in conclusion, car crashes are the #1 cause of death for teens, even more than suicide, cancer, or poison. Parts of the brain that control judgment and coordination aren't fully developed in a teen's brain yet, while parts of the brain that control emotions and motivation are more dominant. There can be 2 solutions, really 3, to remedy this issue. Either raising the age for licenses to 18, withholding driving privileges for 16 and 17-year-olds and giving them full privileges at age 18 when their brain is more developed, or teaching them differently so they're more comfortable with driving but not overconfident. Now, driving is really a primary mode of transportation, and teens need to learn how to drive safely and take responsibility for their actions, and this is also really important for us as Christians because God tells us in the Bible to be responsible for our actions and value human life. And when you're driving on the road, you are not only responsible for your own life, you're responsible for the life of your passenger and for all the other drivers on the road. And so I hope that this speech has informed you more about possibly raising the age for driver's licenses, and I hope you learned something new. Thank you.